Welcome. We're from the Gambling Databases research team.
And what we do really is try to deliver these in-depth analyses of the global iGaming landscape.
Exactly. Our whole goal is to give you a clear, data-driven picture of how the industry actually works in each market, what the conditions are on the ground.
Today, we're focusing on Zimbabwe, and it's a fascinating one.
It really is. It's this classic paradox. You have a country with a clear regulatory structure, really low cost to get in.
But then you have these huge structural, economic, and fiscal challenges just waiting for you.
Right. It's such a contradictory case,
Yeah.
which is why our analysis team actually put a label on it. We call Zimbabwe a paper tiger market.
And that's what we want to unpack today, why we call it that.
We'll look at the strengths, the regulations, the huge digital potential from the demographics.
And then we get to the critical part. We'll dissect the financial realities, specifically the tax policies and the macro volatility that make it so incredibly hard to actually make a profit there.
So we want to guide you through what looks good on paper and then show you what's hiding underneath that makes the ROI calculation so brutal. Okay, let's start at the foundation, where every analysis has to start. What is the current regulatory structure in Zimbabwe?
So everything is managed by the Lotteries and Gaming Board. It's all under the Lotteries and Gaming Act.
Okay.
And the really important thing here is the legal status. It is a fully legal and regulated environment.
Which is not a given everywhere.
Not at all. And this clarity, it covers everything. Land-based casinos, sports betting, and right through to online casinos. For an operator, that legal certainty is a massive plus compared to all the gray markets out there.
And when you compare it to major global markets, the licensing fees can run into the millions, tens of millions. The barrier here seems almost non-existent.
It is remarkably low. And that's the initial siren song of this market.
Right? A hook.
Exactly. The initial application fees are like somewhere between $10,000 and $30,000 US dollars.
That's it.
That's it, depending on the license. And the timeline for approval is quick. We're talking 3 to 6 months.
Wow.
So this rapid, cheap entry, it makes the market look incredibly appealing if you're looking for, quick regional expansion.
But there has to be a catch. That low fee. It feels like bait, doesn't it? Because it comes with this big operational anchor for foreign companies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the first major check against efficiency. Foreign companies absolutely must establish a local registered office or appoint a local agent to handle all the compliance and reporting. You cannot run this operation remotely from a hub in Europe.
So no running it from Malta.
No. This mandatory local footprint, it just adds immediate fixed costs.
Yeah.
You've got staffing, rent, utilities. It instantly eats away at the benefit of that low license fee.
It requires a whole different level of commitment.
A level of commitment that, frankly, the potential revenue just might not justify.
And those local operations, they're not just sitting there. What specific mandatory requirements does the gaming board actually enforce?
They enforce a pretty robust set of standards, actually. We're talking mandatory KYC, know your customer, and anti-money laundering protocols.
Standard stuff.
Yeah, AML. It's standard internationally. Age verification is strictly 18 plus. And crucially, they require serious, responsible gambling measures.
Like what?
Things like mandatory self-exclusion programs and automated limits on player losses or wager sizes.
Yeah.
So you have to budget for all that compliance software and personnel, regardless of how low the GGR might be.
Okay, so that sets the regulatory baseline. Let's pivot to the consumer side, because regulation only matters if there's a market to begin with. What do the demographics in Zimbabwe tell us about the potential?
The demographics are really the engine of this market's potential. The population is estimated at about 19.5 million. But the key stat, the defining characteristic, is its youth. The median age is an incredibly low 24.1 years.
24, that's a huge young population. And they're inherently drawn to mobile tech, digital entertainment. It's a perfect fit for iGaming's core audience.
It is. But when you look at that potential, you have to ask, how connected are they? Because you need reliable infrastructure, and that's historically been an issue across the continent.
Right.
The data here really forces you into a mobile-only approach. Internet penetration is around 38.4%, about 7.5 million users.
Okay.
But here's the vital statistic. Over 90% of those users rely exclusively on mobile networks. Fixed line is basically negligible outside of the big cities.
So any operator has to be thinking mobile first, low bandwidth.
Mobile only. almost. And you have to recognize that rural connectivity is often poor, it fluctuates.
And that reliance on mobile, it feeds directly into payments, right? Which is often the biggest headache for operators in new markets.
How do they solve that problem of moving money around?
This is what's so fascinating. The payment system has basically already solved that friction point.
How so?
Because of historical banking issues, Zimbabwe is a powerhouse of digital microtransactions, and it's overwhelmingly dominated by mobile money. You mean EcoCash?
EcoCash is the undisputed king. It functions like a national digital wallet for everyone. And this system allows for instant deposits and withdrawals, totally bypassing traditional banks. It solves a core operational problem for iGaming.
So you have a massive, young, mobile-savvy population, and they have a fluid mobile money payment system ready to go. That sounds like an explosive combination. What are they actually playing?
The consumer behavior is pretty clear. Sports betting is by far the most popular activity. It's got a 45% participation rate.
Okay, big lead.
Huge. And that's followed by online casino games, mostly slots, at around 28%. The current active market participation is about 7.4% of the whole population, and it's heavily focused on urban areas.
So let's just recap. You've got full legal clarity, you've got incredibly low entry cost, you have seamless payments through EcoCash, and a super engaged youth demographic.
Yep.
If you just stopped right there, you'd assume this market is primed for massive growth, especially with that forecasted 12% CAGR through 2030.
On the surface, it's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
But this is exactly why we call it the paper tiger.
Because all of that ease of entry and high player engagement gets completely eclipsed by the financial reality.
Totally.
Let's get into those hard numbers then. What is the fundamental disconnect here?
It really starts with scale. The total iGaming market size, despite that 12% growth rate, is minuscule. We estimated at only about $15 million in 2025.
15 million. That is shockingly small when you factor in the operational costs we just talked about. The local office, the compliance suite, the staff.
It is. I mean, for perspective, 15 million in GGR is less than the quarterly marketing budget for a single major European bookmaker.
So if a global operator somehow captured, 10% of that market, they're looking at $1.5 million in gross revenue.
Gross revenue, before any local taxes or any of that operational overhead. And the ARPU, the average revenue per user, it just reinforces this. It's estimated at a deeply concerning $30 annually.
$30 a year, that's $2.50 a month per user.
Exactly. To cover the costs of that mandatory local office and 24/7 support, you'd need to acquire and retain a staggering volume of users. It's a volume market that just doesn't justify the fixed costs.
And let's talk about the thing that makes this calculation even worse. Taxation. What does the operator pay, and what was that major change to player taxes?
So operators pay a GGR tax up to 15%. That's manageable. Plus a corporate tax of around 24.72%.
So already pretty substantial.
It is. But the genuine market killer is the policy aimed at the consumer.
The 10% withholding tax, effective January 2025. Explain why that specific tax is so damaging.
Because this tax is levied on the gross winnings from sports betting. And that distinction, gross winnings, is critical.
So not on the player's profit.
Not on profit. It is applied to the total winning payout. And this structure is just disastrous for high-frequency, high-volume bettors, the most profitable demographic.
So a player could place 100 bets, win 50, lose 50, and they'd be taxed on every single one of those 50 wins, even if they ended the day down money.
Precisely. They could have a negative P&L for the week and still have paid taxes on their gross payouts. It crushes player liquidity, it reduces churn, it just dramatically lowers the lifetime value of the entire player base.
And it does the opposite of what the government wants, right?
Exact opposite. It creates this overwhelming financial incentive for the most valuable players to just leave. They immediately migrate to unregulated offshore platforms where their winnings aren't taxed.
So it starves the legitimate licensed market.
Of its most important customers, yeah. So that high player tax, combined with a tiny market size, pushes traffic straight to the black market.
What other major risks are there? Let's start with the currency.
Currency and economic volatility is a huge one. Operators are tied to the Zimbabwean dollar, the ZWL. It's incredibly volatile.
So planning a budget is impossible.
Planning anything long-term is incredibly risky. You've got hyperinflation, rapid devaluation, and then there's profit repatriation, just getting your US dollars or euros out of the country. It's often subject to foreign exchange shortages and unpredictable government controls. So you might have profit on paper, but turning it into hard currency is the real battle.
And finally, the infrastructure gaps. You're running a 24/7 online service. You need absolute reliability.
And you just don't have it. The daily reality is infrastructure gaps. The major headache is frequent power outages, what they call load shedding.
Crippling for an online operator.
It's crippling. It hits your server uptime. It means you need expensive, complex backup power solutions just to maintain basic service. It limits your customer support. The physical instability undermines everything.
So to just crystallize this whole analysis, the easy part is getting the license. The hard part is every single day of operations that comes after.
That's it. Zimbabwe offers this illusion of opportunity, the paper tiger, defined by low entry costs and great demographics.
But the reality of a $30 ARPU, a mandatory local office, currency volatility, and that punitive 10% player tax just makes profitability.
Well, extremely challenging. Which leads us to a very specific conclusion about who can actually succeed here. This market is really only viable for two types of operators.
The first being the big Pan-African players.
Yes, the Pan-African operators who are already set up in regional hubs like South Africa or Zambia. For them, Zimbabwe is just about completing the map, for brand awareness. They can absorb the low ROI as part of a bigger continental strategy.
And the second type would be the ones who can handle the local risks.
Exactly. Local entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
People with very low overhead, maybe leveraging existing retail betting shops. They can manage the local currency, and they don't have to deal with the headache of international profit repatriation.
But for major European or global Tier 1 operators?
The advice is clear. The tiny market size and the high fixed costs. The ROI simply does not justify the effort or the immense risk.
That structural problem, especially the player tax, it just creates this hard ceiling on the market's growth.
It really does. But, this raises an important question, something for you, the listener, to think about. We know the digital readiness is there. The population is young. The mobile money system works perfectly. So if the political environment stabilized the currency, and if the government got rid of that damaging 10% gross winnings tax,
how quickly could things change?
How quickly could this $15 million market actually scale up and truly capitalize on that high 12% growth projection and become a genuine international growth story? The digital framework is sitting there waiting. It's the economic framework that's holding it all back.
A really compelling scenario to think about when you're analyzing any emerging market. Thank you for walking us through the intricacies of the Zimbabwean iGaming landscape.
We are the Gambling Databases research team, and we're dedicated to providing this kind of clear, data-driven understanding of global markets. For the full text of this report and others, you can visit our website at gamblingdatabases.com.